All right. Hi, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about 5.2, which is proportions. So, proportions, again, we're going to be talk about ratios. So, we're going to still be using things that we talked about in 5.1 for this section. And I love proportions. I think that they are very fun because you kind of get to notice patterns. And I think that that is a cool part about math. So, make sure right now that you have your math composition notebook out and that you have your writing utensil and that you are writing down everything that I write down on my screen. It should be in your notebook. So let's get started. First, I'd like you to write down the learning target. The learning target is I will be able to compare ratios using proportions and the cross products property. Okay, so that is our learning target for today. All right, so now I would like you to listen to me read the definition. So, proportions. A proportion is an equation stating that two ratios are equivalent. Two quantities that form a proportion are proportional. So, let's look at this. 2 over 3 equals 4 over 6. You're probably like, how are those equal, right? How are they equal? Well, this whole section, we're going to be doing a lot of reducing fractions. And remember, when we reduce fractions, we divide both the top and the bottom by the same number to reduce it. So 4 and 6 could both be divided by, 2 because they're both even. And that would give me 2 over 3. Notice this is 2 over 3 right here. Therefore, those are equal, okay? Because they both reduce down to the same thing. So a proportion is when two ratios are equivalent, okay? We're going to look at that. So right now, pause your screen, and I want you to write this definition down in your notebook. Okay, now that you have the definition, let's move on to our first example. So we're going to determine whether ratios form a proportion. So it says, tell whether 6 over 4 and 8 over 12 form a proportion, okay? So what we are going to do is first, I'm going to write down the steps. We're going to simplify, so write these down. Simplify both ratios and write in simplest form, okay? So I'm going to take each of these and simplify them. So first, I'm going to take 6 over 4, okay? So 6 over 4 right here. What could we divide both the top and the bottom by to simplify it? Well, they're both even, so we could do 2. That's going to give me 3 over 2, okay? And this is as simple as it gets. So now I want to write the second fraction, which is 8 over 12. So I'm going to write 8 over 12, okay? And 8 over 12, we need to reduce it. What could we reduce both of these numbers by? Well, I know that 4 is a factor of all of these. So I know I could do 8 divided by 4 and also 12 divided by 4. 8 divided by 4 will give me 2. 12 divided by 4 will give me 3. Okay, now both of them are simplified. So now we need to compare both of these fractions. Be careful. Make sure you notice what number's on the top and the bottom. The first fraction says 3 halves, 3 over 2. The second one says 2/3, 2 over 3. Therefore, these are not the exact same. So the ratios are not equivalent, okay? And if they are not equivalent, that means that we're going to write this out. So 6 over 4 and 8 over 12 are not a proportion. Okay, so those are not a proportion. And that is because when we simplified both fractions, they did not equal each other. So that's how we determine whether ratios are a proportion or not. Okay, make sure you have that down in your notebook. Now we're going to look at this table. Determine whether two quantities are proportional, but we're going to be using a table, okay? So the first thing that we are going to do, I'm going to write the directions, is we are going to, we already have that written down. Compare each ratio x to y in simplest form. So make sure it's x to y in simplest form. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to compare x to y. So I'm just going to do the first box, okay? The first box. So 1/2, I'm going to write, it says x to y, so my x is going to go on top, and my y is going to go on bottom, 3. Okay, well, how do we simplify this? You're probably thinking that. There's a fraction on top. This is getting confusing. So don't be too confused. Just think about our dividing fractions rules. To divide a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. Keep, change, flip. So let's write this out as 1/2 divided by, and let's write 3 as a fraction, 3/1. Okay? Remember our rule, keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction, change the sign to multiplication, and then flip the other fraction. All right? So that's going to give us 1/2 times 1/3. Remember, to multiply fractions, it's numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So it's going to give me 1/6. Okay, so we have just found out that the ratio of this first one is 1/6, but we don't stop there because we want to tell whether x and y are proportional, which means we need to do what we just did for every single box. So now we're going to write, remember, it's x over y. So we're going to write 1/6. And would you look at that? 1/6. Well, that matches up. So far, since they've all reduced down to the same thing, so far they are proportional. But we still have to continue on. I'm going to number these too so it's even clearer. So the first one, it was 1/6, which is good. Second one, it's 1/6, so we're good. Third one, let's write down the third one. Third one is 3/2 divided by 9. So we're going to write the x on the top, 3/2 divided by 9. We're going to need to do the same thing we did in number 1, which is our fraction rules. So write it as 3/2 divided by, let's write 9 as a fraction. So 9/1. Then remember our rule for dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to multiply, and we're going to flip this fraction. So it's going to be 1/9. Okay? That's going to give us, so before we go any further, can we cross cancel? Well, the 3 and the 9, we could cross cancel. We could divide both of them by 3. So 3 divided by 3 will give me 1. 9 divided by 3 will give me 3. Okay, and then finally, we do our multiplying fractions rule, which is numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. 1 times 1 will give me 1. 2 times 3 will give me 6. Therefore, this third box right here is also 1/6. So far, so good. So far, they are proportional. Now let's do our fourth one right here. So our fourth one, we write our x value on top, our y value on bottom. Then we need to simplify. Well, what could we divide both the top and the bottom by? Hopefully you're thinking 2. So if we divide both by 2, that's going to give me 1/6, which, would you look at that? That is what we needed. So therefore, all of these x and y values in this table can be reduced down to 1/6, which, remember our rule for being proportional. If all the rates are equivalent, it forms a proportion. Okay? So since all ratios are equivalent, x and y are proportional. Okay. So for the table, that's exactly what you do, these steps. So you want to take every single box for the table, do the x over y or whatever order it tells you to go in, and then you want to reduce it down and see if they all equal the same thing. If they do, they are proportional. If they don't, they're not proportional. Okay, make sure you have this down in your notebook. And then finally, we're going to be talking about cross products. And cross products is one of my favorite things about math in proportions because it's a super easy way to see if something is proportional. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So this is the proper definition. So essentially what it's saying, when you do the cross products, essentially you are multiplying the diagonals together and setting them equal to each other, okay? So for example, let's look at this example over here. So we have 2/3 equals 4/6. If I wanted to decide whether these two ratios are proportional, what I would do is I'm going to draw my circles, okay? 2 times 6. So I would do 2 times 6 equals, and then multiply the other diagonals. 3 times 4. Simplify them down. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. If you multiply them out and they are equal to each other, you know that they are proportional. Okay, so it's kind of a shortcut way, honestly, to see if ratios are proportional. Literally, you multiply the diagonals, set them equal to each other. If they are equal, you know that they are proportional. So make sure to pause your video right now, and I want you to write down this definition of cross product so that you have it in your notebook, because we're going to be using it a lot in Chapter 5. Okay, so that is cross product. Make sure you have all of these notes down in your notebook, and we will start the big ideas assignment in class soon. All right, thank you for watching.